The sound you hear is what some experts claim to be a Bigfoot scream. Recorded in the state of Washington by a group of campers in 1971, it is regarded as the highest quality audio of the creature ever captured.
Hello! Welcome to Bigfoot Real Encounters. We're glad to have you stop by. We'd also like to take this time to invite you to share your encounter. You can send your stories to the email bfrealencounters@mail.com, where we will feature your story with all of the respect that it deserves. So send your stories in, bfrealencounters@mail.com. We look forward to hearing from you and your great stories soon. Hello and welcome to Bigfoot Real Encounters. Want to welcome all of our brand new viewers as well as all the returning viewers. You have found the safe place to share your encounters. Tell what happened to you. We will believe you. We know that Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the hairy giants, the forest giants really do exist. They've been there all along. It doesn't matter if you were ignored, ridiculed, shut down, laughed at, whatever, when you were younger or whatever when you told what happened to you. Here you will be believed. It's time that you tell what happened to you. And we have encounters of people that are telling what happened to them. Now more than ever, these incidences are making their way into the light thanks to the internet, as well as the advent of these television shows, many of which are kind of ridiculous. And you know what I'm talking about. You've seen them. People out there banging on trees and screaming into the night, thinking that that is going to get them an encounter, when you look at all these other encounters, nobody was doing that when they had their encounter. The scientific method suggests that if you want something to happen, you find out what made it happen before and then repeat that. Silly people. Anyways, it is so much easier to bring your encounters out into the open now because of these different platforms, such as mine, as well as more people are aware of the existence of these creatures and the existence of the encounters. And not only do they believe it, they are wanting to hear about it. So let's let them hear about what happened to you. Now that also presents the opportunity for education for the public and for our young folks, so that we can teach them from an early age about the existence of these creatures. So if they come in contact with them in the future during their life, they will not be so overwhelmed by what they are encountering that they have severe PTSD from it. But they'll actually, although they will be startled, they'll actually have some type of an idea what to do and what not to do. This is very important. I mean, we teach them what to do if they come across a bear or a cougar. Yes, they're going to be frightened and shocked, but they'll have an idea what to do. Same thing with this. We need to teach them right along with the bears and the cougars and the wolves and everything else, okay? Got it? Oh, yeah. And I made this introduction a little bit longer because somebody complained about a long introduction on my last video. They told me I talked too much and to just get into the story, so this is my channel, not yours. Anyways, this information that I present is the root cause for this channel. It is very important, and it's not your channel. So let's continue our state by state while we wait for folks to gather up the courage and sit down and take all the time necessary to craft a letter and send it into the email bfrealencounters@mail.com and send their encounters in to me. We're going to go take a look at New Mexico. Yes, now New Mexico is a state that is already known for high strangeness, as in Roswell, New Mexico. But this is not about a UFO subject. Although, in some instances, the UFO and Bigfoot encounters do go hand in hand. But that's not for today, or this channel. But it could be for this channel if somebody sends it in. I'll read it. Anyways, we're going to go to, let's see, Otero County, New Mexico in the summer of 1997. Now this one reads, in the first incident, two sisters who are in their 80s were on their way to their mother's place to pick up children for a birthday party. As they turned on to the dirt/gravel road to the house, they saw something sitting by the left side of the road. When the car lights illuminated it, it stood up to a height estimated to be around 7 feet or more. One of the sisters refused to look at it after one glance. It was reported to me that the eyes seemed red in the headlights. It was hairy all over with a kind of pointed head, long arms, and no neck. It moved off toward the river. The sisters turned into their mother's driveway and did not see it again. They were very frightened and were sure it was not a bear or human. This happened in March of 1997, as I recall. My husband and I were visiting our adopted family in August 1997, having arrived there on August 21st. We were in our pop-up camper parked by the river and behind the brush arbor across the driveway from Grandma's house. Next door to her house lived her son and his family. Her son was away on a fire along with his son, but his wife and daughter were at home. On August 21st, we had set up our camp, ate, visited, went to bed early around 11 p.m. Everyone was asleep except me, and I was drifting into sleep when I felt a very strong jolt to our camper, which made everything rattle. I thought it might be a horse or a cow, but the impact was higher than a horse or cow, like at the roof line. I was too scared to move, but didn't know why. Nothing more happened, so I went to sleep and told my husband about it the next morning. He sleeps like a log. On Saturday, August 23rd, the whole group of us, maybe 20 people, had cooked and eaten outside, and after cleanup, we all sat around the fire in the brush arbor, enjoying the cool summer and visiting with old friends. I was talking, and way off somewhere, kind of remember hearing a sound like a baby crying. The little girl sitting next to me said, "Did you hear that?" I responded that I didn't hear anything, and she said, "That weird howl." Immediately, the adults stood up and told the children to go into the house, that it was time for bed. They all heard it, whatever it was. My husband and I, and our two little granddaughters, sat there for a short while, wondering what was going on, and then went into our trailer and went to sleep. The dogs barked and howled almost all night. The next morning, Sunday, August 24th, I woke up and went to the house for coffee. All the family members were already there talking. I listened for a while, and the topic of conversation intrigued me, so I asked what everyone was talking about. Dead silence. I jokingly said that it sounded to me like they were talking about Bigfoot. One and then another of them began to talk about it, and I said, "Why don't you tell me?" The response was that they didn't want to scare us off. I told them I'd been interested in this for years. Then the stories came out, such as two of the grandchildren the previous night had been on their way to the grandmother's house as they turned off from the main highway to the old highway, where there is a sharp left-hand curve in the road about 50 yards in, and where the remains of the old highway continues to a dead end to the right. They saw the being. It was right at the curve where they saw crossing in front of their vehicle. It was very large, hairy, long-armed figure. They observed them cross the dead-end portion of the road and crash up the hill through the brush. They continued on to Grandma's house. As we all sat and listened to this, and every one of us believed them, son-in-law suggested that we all look for sign at the site where this occurred. LS is an Eskimo from Selawik, Alaska, and he is a hunter. I wanted to go, but was still in my pajamas and robes, so I told them to go without me. When I got there, they were gone, so I returned back to the house. When they returned, Lewis said there were droppings, tracks, and matted down grasses, and chicken feathers, but no sign of bones or other scraps. His view of the droppings, as he related to me then, is that they don't belong to a bear or any of the other animals that he knows of. They contain seeds and plant materials and bore a resemblance to human feces except for the size and quantity. Before we got to Mescalero in early August, Blank said she woke up one morning early and noticed a huge handprint on her dining room window, which is a large window beneath which the table sits. She went outside to clean it off so the grandkids and others wouldn't see it and be scared. Grandma was proud of her flower garden of lilies, and she said the flowers were trampled down by something heavy. Again, there are no horses around. In the kitchen on August 24th, I was told that howls and screams occur frequently at night, and that they have all heard them and cannot identify them. All remarked about the bad odors they have smelled on certain nights when the dogs, which are tied up, have barked and barked and barked. One of the granddaughters was sitting in the living room one night watching television when she happened to look out the window to see something looking in at her. All she could say was that it was big and hairy. Wow, it sure sounds like there's a lot of stuff going on that property. A lot of things with the family. It probably was happening before they noticed it. But when the things start looking in the window at you, that's time to try to do something about it. That's awful scary right there. My goodness. Anyways, I want to take a moment here to encourage you to like, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification icon so that you are notified when new videos are uploaded and made available for your viewing. There are many of you out there, probably most of you who have looked up this type of subject, who have had encounters of some sort. Maybe you've seen a Sasquatch. Maybe you are just curious about it because you've had some strange occurrences in the wilderness or even near your home in a wooded area or whatnot, or fishing, hunting, camping, hiking, backpacking, canoeing, and it was just strange to you, so you started investigating and come across similar type of occurrences that have to do with Bigfoot and came across my channel. You don't have to have had a sighting to have had an encounter with these beings. That being said, share your encounters at bfrealencounters@mail.com. You can be anonymous, that's not a problem, But it would be beneficial to you to get your story out, as we're finding out from many who have told their encounter, their incident, and it helps them to be able to start dealing with the matter. So, get your story out. This is one of the best times in history to do so. It's easier to do it. There's places to do it, like right here, and there are people who want to hear about it. Also, on Bigfoot Anonymous page on Facebook, which is a private group, there are people there who have had encounters that have joined specifically to contact others who have had encounters. So there's another place for you to interact with folks, share your encounters, and be able to, deal with a situation, because encounters with Bigfoot generally are not good. All right, let's look around and see if we have some other encounters in New Mexico. And here we have something from the July of 1980 in San Juan County, New Mexico. This one reads, "My family would spend the summers in the mountains and help herd sheep. We had a cabin, corrals, tents, several other structures on the property, and occasionally would have some weird experience with our animals. The dogs would bark at something unseen to us, and the sheep would run away from something hidden in the forest. We would just feel like something was watching us from the shadows. It was near dusk, and my family had just finished dinner and were socializing. I had been thumbing through a book when John, who I will call to respect his privacy, came running in the shade house we built next to the cabin, crying and white as a sheet. He was always the macho type that showed no emotion, so to see him in this frightened, alarmed state alarmed my grandmother and my aunts and uncles to hurry out the front door. They stood at the threshold looking down in the direction of the well. I put the book down and walked in the door. They were all whispering in Navajo when I saw something down at the well. I first was excited because I thought it was a black bear. Then I noticed it was grayish brown color and was kneeling. I never heard of a bear that could kneel like a man. It looked as if it was washing something off or taking a drink. I had no problem with it until it looked over its shoulder at us and I could see its features. Man-like. That was all I needed to see. I ran into the cabin and hid in the bed under the covers. I was younger, and to this day, when I asked my mother about it, she says that everyone else was in agreement that it was a Bigfoot. A few weeks later, it was standing outside of our tent about 2 a.m. I saw the shadow on the tent. As for the dogs, they were not making a sound, when typically, when anything or anyone comes around, they howl and bark. And of course, this encounter kind of points out that once they know that you know that they know that you know what I mean. They hang around and keep checking you out. It also points out the fact that dogs are man's best friend, or one of the best indicators of the presence of these beings. So if you do want to spend any time, suburban, have a dog. They'll be a good indicator if something is off, where you might need to leave or pay more attention to your surroundings. All right, let's see if we have time for another one here. Okay, we got time for another one. Let's finish up with one from the fall of 2004 in October, Lincoln County, New Mexico. This one here reads, "Me and a buddy have frequented a spot for fishing and hunted over the past 3 years. We're both wildlife majors at Texas Tech and are very accomplished at big game hunters and fly fishermen. We follow the trail that begins at the bottom of the canyon and followed it until the trail disappeared. About a quarter mile up the riverbed from there, we set up camp in our usual spot, which was a grassy embankment along the rocky riverbed. We had been there for 3 days of fall, brook trout fishing and camping. The nights leading up to the final day were routine: elk bugling, raccoons in the creek bed, and one encounter with a small black bear that was very curious about us. Spending a lot of time here and in other dense wilderness areas in these mountains was no problem for us. The final night was bitterly cold, so we didn't sleep that much. I decided to leave camp at the first light to begin fishing. My partner was still tired from the cold night and stayed behind to get some rest. I followed the river upstream on my usual route through the thick underbrush, fishing all the log jams and deep pools that the trout piled up in. I was probably a mile upstream from camp when I followed the river into a steep canyon of giant boulders that had a good-sized pool. Side note here, folks, the boulders. I remember David Paulides talking about boulder fields being prominent in Missing 411. Just something that caught my attention here. Alright, back to the encounter. I fished for about 15 minutes before I started to feel something watching me, or a presence. The strange thing that scared me was that the birds stopped singing and the woods almost went silent. I then scanned the steep canyon boulders and pine forest and saw brush and trees shaking vigorously and immediately thought I was about to see a bear. I slowly went to the opposite side of the creek and stared in the area, trying to make out the creature. Everything stopped moving and I quickly started down the river towards the camp. About 10 minutes later, I heard what sounded like a guttural moan or cry directly across the river, like the creature was trying to scare me. This, combined with the fact that it had paralleled me down the river, really made me panic. I then ran all the way back to camp as quickly as I could, spraining my ankle in the process. I'm an accomplished outdoorsman who has had plenty of experience with bears and the area, but I have never seen a bear parallel a human for as long as this creature did, and the cry was definitely different from any kind of growl or vocalization that I have ever heard out of a bear. I'd like to state once again, if this is your story that you, or the other two stories that have been posted by you on the BFRO website, and you've stumbled across me narrating them, I would love to hear from you. Contact me at bfrealencounters@mail.com. Perhaps you have additional information. Maybe all that you wanted to get onto the website that didn't get there. Maybe you've thought of additional facts for us to consider. Anyways, if this is your story or stories, one of them, please contact us, bfrealencounters@mail.com, and maybe we'll feature another new video. Maybe we'll feature you on a video. You can extend your story, fill us in. Maybe you have other encounters. The sky's the limit. Bigfoot related, of course. Anyways, apparently all you have to do is just mind your own business. Camping or having a nice cookout or just going fishing. No need to bang in the side of a tree and scream out into the night to have a Bigfoot encounter. That being said, fall is upon us, a week now, and if you're out there enjoying the last few moments, a few weeks of decent weather to enjoy camping, fishing, backpacking, grilling, hiking, whatever you may be doing outdoors, just remember, keep an eye on the tree line to see what's keeping an eye on you. We'll see you in the next one. Once again, another great story. Thanks for tuning in. Please share your encounter. Email us, bfrealencounters@mail.com. Your story is very important. We will treat it with the respect that it deserves. Also, be sure to smash the like button, share, and subscribe. Thanks once again. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Watch out for our next video. Maybe we'll feature yours. Have a great day.